Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the May 17th, 2018 Cumberland County Commissioners Workshop meeting. Would you all please stand for allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 9 a.m. and at this time I'd like to open up the floor to public comment. Is there public comment?
Yes, sir. Thank you. My name is Rick Rovino. I'll let some folks come in here. Sorry.
Who's there?
Sorry, Mr. Rubino.
My name is Rick Rovino. I live in 112 Spring Farm Circle, Carlisle, Pennsylvania, South Middle Township. I'm here in my position as president of the Cumberland Conservation Collaborative. For those that don't know, the Collaborative is an organization of 31 affiliated organizations and agencies devoted to the preservation and enhancement of the environment in Cumberland County and the provision of facilities for outdoor recreational activities. I'm here specifically at the unanimous request of all Collaborative affiliates to thank the Board of Commissioners. And Gary, there's also a letter there that I've given a copy to each of the three commissioners from the Collaborative with my signature, thanking the commissioners for their efforts and position that they've taken respecting the condemnation of the McCormick tract. The volunteers are in concurrence with you that it unnecessarily pits one public purpose against another. And I can say on all of our behalves, we thank you because it gives us faith that our county's leaders appreciate the efforts of all these volunteers. And there are literally hundreds of volunteers in these 31 affiliates. So on behalf of everyone, thank you for your efforts, and we will continue to be interested in the matter and other matters respecting the environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Rovino. Any other public comment? Seeing no more, we'll move on to agenda number 3. I'd like to call on Commissioner DiFilippo to present Sally Kammerer with her 25 years of service. Sally, would you please come forward?
Quarter century. That makes it simple.
Yes, good morning, folks. Sally is celebrating her 25 years of service with the county. She was hired in May of 1993 as a prevention specialist in drug and alcohol, promoted in October 2006 as a prevention program supervisor, and in August of 2010 was promoted to a senior human services manager. Sally, on behalf of the county commissioners, we'd like to thank you for your 25 years of service. Jack, I know you might have something to say.
Yeah, I'd like to brag about her a little bit.
Sure.
Sally is a utility player for our department. She does a little bit of everything. She's a presenter and a trainer. She has very good technical writing skills, so we rely on her when we're putting in grant applications and filing state reports. She's our department's lead on information management and technology matters. That way I never have to talk to Mark. I can always say, talk to Sally about that. She understands it. And she manages all of the prevention and early intervention services for our 2-county service area. She's got a great sense of humor, and that contributes a lot to staff morale. She has a very strong work ethic, and she puts in whatever time is necessary to get the job done. She also consistently reminds all of us in the drug and alcohol department that our top priority should always be providing respectful and quality services to the individuals and the Her versatility makes her one of our most valuable employees. And she's an outstanding representative not only of our agency, but for both Cumberland and Perry counties as well. We are very lucky.
Yeah, I would. First of all, I had to check my pulse. I thought it was at my memorials. But no, thank you, seriously. I would like to just say thank you for recognizing employees. When Jack first asked me about looking at my schedule, given that I would be recognized, my first internal reaction was, wasn't I just over there?
Yeah.
Wasn't I? And so it made me reflect that, maybe time flies when you're having fun. And then I thought, well, I don't know that fun is necessarily the way to characterize what it is that we do each and every day, although it can be, and it is quite enjoyable. But rather, I would say that time flies when you believe in what you're doing, when it's meaningful, when it's worthwhile, and when you feel you're making a difference. And in large part, that's due to Jack's leadership. But I would also say, and he would wholeheartedly agree, that it's due to in large part to the staff that come each and every day. When it's not easy, particularly in the midst of an epidemic, and put the needs of the drug and alcohol needs of Cumberland County communities, and in our case, Perry County communities, first and foremost. And for that, I'm grateful to be a very small part. So thank you for recognizing employees, and here's to another 25.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you, Commissioner. Next, we'll move to Commissioner DiFilippo, who will present a proclamation to Dwayne Neves regarding the Commissioners proclaiming Emergency Medical Services Week. Dwayne, would you please come forward?
Before I forget, I just want to let folks know Commissioner Eichelberger is with us today thanks to technology. He's on the phone. Didn't want to forget that. Good to see you. Two pairs of glasses. Crazy. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to recognize the Emergency Medical Service by making a proclamation in recognition of Emergency Medical Service Week, May 20th through May 26th. And I'll read the proclamation. Whereas EMS is a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical service teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. Whereas emergency medical services has grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventative medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine. And whereas the EMS system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, administrators, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of emergency medical service teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishment of EMS providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Now, therefore, the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners proclaimed May 20 through 26th this year as Emergency Medical Services Week in Cumberland County, PA, presented the 17th day of May from the Cumberland County Commissioners. Wayne, thank you for representing your group, and words cannot explain how thankful we are for what you folks do. You are priceless for us.
Thank you, sir. It's an honor to call.
And as I draw the park.
If it's one I'd also add, I think, you know, our EMS folks are critical these days. They're really on the front line in the fight against the #1 public health crisis of our time, and that is the opioid epidemic. And I know that our first responders have saved many lives in Cumberland County with the naloxone treatment. Hopefully we can reach a point where we won't have any more of these deaths. We had, I think, 84 deaths as a result of the opioid crisis in our county and nation, and just last year. But I know we've also probably saved that many lives, and that's through your work. So thank you very much.
Wayne, anything you'd like to say?
No, as has become customary the last several years, I have some clinical safe commendations and some folks who have earned those commendations. I'd like to take a moment to hear their names.
Sure.
An honor that you are here. Thank you.
Okay.
So for the benefit of the commissioners and everyone in attendance, a clinical safe commendation in our region is an award presented to certified EMS providers who resuscitate someone who experienced an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest. So cardiac arrest is clinical death. Within several minutes, biological death sets in and it's irreversible. But just to be clear, those folks who suffer that are clinically dead. They have no pulse, no breathing, often no viable heart rhythm to speak of. So rapid, assertive, competent care is paramount in having some of those folks survive. Nationally, about 5% of people who suffer an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest survive to discharge from the hospital with little or no neurological deficit. So that's pretty tall odds to go up against in this. I'm proud to say we have a dozen and a half resuscitations here every year in Cumberland County, probably more because not every provider follows up and reports to their leadership, because many of them view it as, I'm just doing my job, that's why I'm here, I don't need that recognition. Well, that's not true. They need the recognition. It's through their training, their education, their constant battle to keep on top of things and to do well by every patient they see every hour of the day, that many of these people survive and live to see another day, to see their loved ones and go on with some portion of their life. So we have 4 agencies who had multiple personnel this year. I think only 2 agencies are represented here. So I'll start with Cumberland Goodwill EMS, because they have some ambulances parked out front and their area is depending on them. So as I call your name, please come forward to get your certificate. Tony Altman, paramedic, Cumberland Goodwill EMS. Congratulations. Tyler Bailey, EMT. Elizabeth Klauser, EMT. Nicholas Davis, paramedic.
Thank you for your service.
Casey Howard, paramedic. Scott Romberger, EMT. Chris Turnbull, paramedic. I have to pause for a moment to let you know Mr. Turnbull, unfortunately, is no longer functioning as a paramedic in our county. He's fresh off the road from Bethany, Delaware this morning to come to me on. So thank you, Chris, for being here. Cindy Womer, EMT, and Cody Wood, paramedic. Okay. Holy Spirit EMS, a Geisinger affiliate, Micah Bennett, paramedic. John Brindle, paramedic. Andre Conroy, paramedic. Jonathan Fisher, paramedic. Douglas Herman, paramedic. William Hess, paramedic. And Rodney Miller, paramedic. Also, I don't believe they're here, but if you are, please stand up and correct me. New Cumberland Fire Department had several. Sivan Chania, EMT, Edward Earlston, EMT, Kyle Marshall, EMT, Michael McDowell, EMT, Justin McNaughton, EMT, Jordan Miller, paramedic, and Afton Tressler, EMT. And also Silver Spring Ambulance and Rescue Association, Rhonda Ansel, EMT, Jeffrey Coder, AEMT, Karen Fillmore, EMT, Deb Hoffman, EMT, and Jay Trimble, EMT. So again, quite a few residents of the county and visitors of the county who were clinically dead and live on today with no neurological deficit thanks to the efforts of these fine providers. Look short guy in the center.
You can be the thorny. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. They do a great service for us all.
Want to mention, I was more than 5% 9 years ago. I had a sudden cardiac arrest. And you wonder why, how you end up being in the right place at the right time. Dale, you were there that night, and you assisted in getting me back. And these people are priceless, and I know it firsthand.
Thank you, Commissioner. That moves us to item number 5, which is a discussion of a resolution to update current signatures for inclusion with PennDOT grants. Pete?
This is a resolution required by PennDOT, I think, on an annual basis. It applies to the grant process. I apologize, I wasn't aware of what we were talking about. I got it from Curtis Turner. I reviewed it. I find it acceptable. It's a standard resolution form.
So we can take action on the
Yes.
problem. Okay. Gary, can you hear? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm there.
All right, very good.
All right, Pete, I'm trying not to surprise you. That moves us into agenda item number 6, contracts and grants. I'll turn to Sandy Moyer. Moyer?
Thank you, Steve. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Commissioners. Under agenda item 6, Roman numeral 1, we do not have any contracts listed today on the agenda for consideration, so we'll move on to agenda item 6, Roman numeral 2, which consists of new contracts, vendors, services, grants, and contracts with increases and decreases to the county, and begin by calling on Jamie Reaver to discuss the agreement between Children and Youth Services and the University of Pittsburgh. Jamie?
Good morning, Commissioners. This is an agreement between the University of Pittsburgh for one of our employees who is going to be attending schooling part-time to further her education. There is no cost to the county for this.
Any questions for Jamie? Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to call on Eric Radovich to discuss the grant for the district attorney's office. Eric?
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a 2-year, $112,000 no-match grant from the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. It supports the county's efforts for DUI enforcement, for DUI checkpoints, roving patrols, that sort of thing. So it's a grant that we do every year. This is the first year doing a 2-year grant, which seems to be a new trend over at the state, which cuts out a lot of paperwork. And that is a small increase in dollars. It's about an additional $5,000 per year. I don't remember the exact number. I think it's $5,100, but again, it's a no-match grant.
Did you say it's less than?
It's more. It's more
Oh,
this
it's
year.
more?
Yes.
And what did you say the amount was again?
112,000.
Okay.
And that's a two-year grant.
Any questions for Eric? Thanks, Eric. Holly Sherman's here to discuss the agreement between Human Resources and Servico Insurance Services Incorporated. Holly?
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a 3-year agreement with Inservico Insurance Services for our workers' compensation third-party claims processing. It is a 2% increase each year for about a total of about $1,100 over the 3-year contract, and this is no general fund. It comes out of the Workers' Comp Trust Fund.
Any questions for Holly? Thank you, Holly. Next, we'll move on to Sue Cardwell to discuss an MHIDD agreement for fiscal year 2017-18 for early intervention. Sue?
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. The contract we have for Aspirations is an early intervention contract. It is an amendment for an increase of $14,589 due to additional services being authorized for the additional referrals that we have had for early intervention. And again, these are all state dollars.
Any contract or questions for Sue? Thanks, Sue.
Thanks.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Sandy. And Dana Best is joining us today to discuss agenda item number 7 regarding budget resolution 2018-10 and agenda item number 8 regarding resolution 2018-12. Good morning, Ms. Best.
Good morning. Drug and alcohol is requesting to increase their revenues and expenses by $41,892. This is funding from the Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs for services for veterans who have PTSD and substance abuse issues. There's no impact to the general fund. And the next agenda item is the reimbursement resolution that we have previously discussed. It is a resolution allowing us to reimburse ourselves for up to $5 million in the event that we would do new money in the bond issue that we're planning on doing in the late summer, early fall. We are planning on doing a refinancing, and this just leaves our options open to have a reimbursement clause if we decide to do new money. Any questions?
Yeah, Dana, the first one in terms of the 41,802, is that just for services for veterans?
The way I understand, yes.
Is this in connection with the contract that we have with Just for Today in the morning? Do you know?
I am not sure. When Ryan sent it over, he did say there is an existing. The next part of it is JFT contract related to this has been approved.
That's it, yeah. JFT, Just for Today. Okay. All right. And then on this, on the resolution, I just wanted to be clear, this doesn't obligate us in any way, shape, or form in anything. This is just an option.
It is just an option.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Okay. All right, we'll move on then to agenda item 9. Adams will discuss the capital project request for the spring 2018 computer life cycle. Mark, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is our standard 5-year life cycle replacement annual or sub-annual project for the spring. We are replacing actually 66 computers. I think it says 65 on the project, but it's 66. Dollar amount's not changing. $104,200, I believe, is on the capital project. Quotes are coming in a little bit lower than that, so we'll certainly be underneath that dollar amount. These are mostly human services and nursing home computers and laptop replacements, although there are a couple that are general fund, and so the total for general fund dollars is $7,750. And that's for the spring, and then we'll come back to you in the fall with the fall life cycle numbers as well.
All right, any questions of Mark?
Thanks, Mark.
All right, thank you, Mark. Agenda item number 10, I'll call on Commissioner DeFilippo to discuss the appointment recommendation to the Drug and Alcohol Commission Community Advisory Board. Commissioner?
The recommendation is for Bailey Whitebread as a youth representative to be appointed for a 3-year term. effective June 1, 2018, expiring 31/2021. There's information on her background in our packet, and I just ask the Board of Commissioners for your recommendation on it.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioners. Next, we'll move to Commissioners' Liaison Reports. Commissioner DeFilippo.
Yes, Western Council of Governments met earlier this week. Not a whole lot going on other than normal maintenance, road work, etc. There are a couple of things to announce and report on. Penn Township continues to work on revisions of their subdivision and land development ordinance and their zoning ordinance. Also, Dickinson continues to revise their zoning ordinance and their comp plan. West Penn hired a new sewer plant operator. It starts this coming Monday. And the Big Spring School District, they are continuing construction at Newville Elementary and trying to implement an increase in improvement for pedestrian safety. And that's all I have. Oh, one other item is the Council of Governments did request information on Act 172, which is the legislation that allows municipalities to provide a tax credit to volunteer firefighters, EMS folks, etc. That information was sent out that afternoon to the Western COG so that all their members can receive that. There was also a LEPC meeting due to a conflict. I asked Sandy to attend, which she did, and Sandy will give us an update on that committee meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner DeFilippo. The LEPC meeting was held on Thursday, May 10th, and at that time, Steve Hoffman gave an update on the county hazard mitigation plan and stated that the municipalities must submit their projects in order to be considered for disaster assistance. They are creating a steering committee to review the plan and update it as necessary. There were 6 members who went to RRR on May 14th of 18 for training on hazmat environment, air monitoring, training on explosives, working with law enforcement, and working with bomb dogs. There will be a hazmat conference coming up in June, on June 10th, and most of the team members will be able to attend. They attended some facilities, they did tours, and one was for Dairy Farmers of America, which was held on April 11th of 2018. And they plan on touring the ADM milling facility on June 13th of 2018. The second LEPC Sarah Summit scheduled for October 23rd, 18 at the Army Heritage Education Center will be held, and the topic will be what happens next. There was a recommendation for appointment. It was Matt Dominic. He expressed his interest in becoming a member, and the committee members recommended that appointment and will be coming to the BOC for approval. And then finally, on May 16th, from 1 to 2:30, the Capital Area Safety Council of PA will be hosting the bi-monthly meeting on subjects of hazardous communication and the Superfund Amendment Reauthorization Act requirements. Presenters will be Andrew R. O'Donnell and Chris Fisher from Dauphin County Department of Public Safety and the Office of Emergency Management. And that's all I have. Welcome.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Sandy. Commissioner Hertzler?
Okay, thank you, Steve. Just prior to this meeting, I attended on behalf of Commissioner Eichelberger the County Planning Commission meeting. And what was announced at the meeting is was the loss of one of our Planning Commission members, Ra Klieg, who passed away, I understand, within the past week. I didn't know Mr. Klieg, but our hearts go out to his friends and family, and with our gratitude for his service to our county. And I ask that we get a sympathy note off for the commissioners to his family, and I'm sure that Kirk should be able to provide that information. Gary, did you know, I don't know whether you know Ra at all, but maybe you want to make some...
Yeah, he was a fairly new appointee. Ra was a regular attendee and attended on the municipal outreach as well in the western area. He was a member of the Borough Council in Shippensburg. Very involved, sharp guy, way too young to be taken from us. So it'd be fun to public service in this county.
Okay, thank you, Gary. I left the meeting and it was still going on, and essentially most of the discussion was centering on the proposed text amendment, the zoning change in East Pennsboro Township relative to the Summerdale tract. I did make some comments from my own personal observations on that. I made sure that the Planning Commission understood that I was not representing the Board of Commissioners as a whole, because I really don't know your thoughts on that, but I did present my views relative to, because of my knowledge of the issues, being a former East Pennsboro Township Commissioner and so forth. So they were still discussing that. A lot of questions were being asked, and then I had to get over here to attend this meeting. I think the dashboard, Gary, I think was in the packet that you would email, but I'll make sure that you and Vince also get a copy of that as well. The Agricultural Land Preservation Board met last Wednesday morning. Appraisals are moving forward on the 13 farms that have been identified for preservation in our 2018 Farmland Preservation Program. There was an update from the Ag Board's solicitor relative to research that he has done in connection with the Cumberland Valley School District's proposed condemnation taking of the McCormick Farm property. If what was discussed, what was reported, it does appear clearly evident that the action of the CV School District to use eminent domain to acquire a preserved farm is unprecedented in Pennsylvania. And the issue is also expected to come up for discussion in the coming week at a conference of the State Farmland Preservation Association that I understand Stephanie Williams from the planning office is going to be attending, along with Doug Wolfgang from the State Department of Agriculture, and we will be discussing this issue relative to the condemnation, or the proposed condemnation of the McCormick property, and how that impacts our preserved farmland policy in the state going forward. In other action, the board approved a request from the preserved farm owner in Penn Township for the construction of one additional residential structure on their property, per the restrictions and guidelines allowed by our farmland preservation program. In addition, it was announced that the annual inspections of preserved farms are underway to ensure compliance with preservation requirements and conservation plans. I don't think Vince mentioned it, but Vince and I were pleased to attend last Wednesday evening's Municipal Advisory Board meeting, while Commissioner Eichelberger was gracious enough to cover the Emergency Service Action Panel meeting that was being conducted at the same time. Relative to the MAB, although there were a number of municipalities that were not represented overall, I thought the amount that turned out was pretty good. And the room was certainly, I think the room was pretty full. We covered a range of topics from our efforts to achieve improved transit service. We had transit agency administrative consolidation, discussion of the need for capacity expansion of I-81, electronics recycling, public safety's move toward enabling text to 911, our opioid prevention and intervention efforts, and among a number of other matters. And I think that our discussion was hopefully mutually beneficial and informative for our partners at the municipal level in the county. And Vince and I also were able to attend Tuesday morning's meeting of the Cumberland Area Economic Development Corporation. There was a discussion of CADIC's legislative priorities to include our efforts toward achieving improvements to I-81 with the assistance of our federal and state legislative delegations. And there was also an overview of, a preliminary conceptual plan for the development of an indoor and outdoor youth sports facility that could be located in our county and serve as possibly a major draw for tourism. Still very much in the talking stage, but CADIC was certainly laying the groundwork for what could be a very interesting project. And I have a Housing and Redevelopment Authority board meeting at noon, Aging Advisory Board meeting tomorrow, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Eichelberger?
Okay, number of items here. You can hear me okay?
Breaking up a little bit, but we can hear you.
Okay, just sliding me down, go south here. All right, we have the, thank you first for attending the Planning Commission meeting this morning. I appreciate that. The discussion on this, but we'll meet go through the search process again regarding any emissions to obviously. So, and the deck board giving you reference that I need to make sure that her circulates that to us. So, and I'll follow up with the items that need reported out. Also on the recycling authority, our one interest for that Kevin Arnold is resigning. He has other professional pursuits going on right now, and so we'll be looking for a replacement there. The meeting for that for the authority is next week. Let's see here. You already mentioned the emergency services action handle. We had a fairly lengthy attended meeting on that, but it was good to have commission representation there as well. We had the standard report out. I want to give hats off to Michelle Parsons for carrying the county's side of the meeting, and actually she reported out for the groups who were not able to be present either. So special thanks to Michelle. She was the lead since Mr. Shiley was presumably in attendance at your municipal advisory board meeting. She did a great job. Well, I wasn't at the CADIC meeting, obviously, being out of town. I was able to attend the executive committee meeting on Thursday, and that's starting to warm up for the meeting. So I have familiarity with the topics that were discussed there. I just was going to reiterate that the group asked that keep them engaged in terms of our communications on I-81. I promised them that we would be doing so, pulling together, since we have the study regarding interchanges, that could be relevant to any decisions that are made regarding I-81. Okay, on Friday, the CCAP County Committee had a delegate conference, and it was just to finalize the arrangements for the class that's finishing up, and sort of preparation for the next training regimen for CCAP members and affiliates. Friday, Workforce Investment Board meeting. Some interesting new things going on there regarding business partnerships. I'll have a thorough report for you when I return. Also, they seem to be in very good budget condition, and there are some new monies becoming available. So they obviously were pleased to report progress on a number of things there. I apologize for the problems yesterday regarding the finance meeting. We'll have some more discussion for the moderate time over the SAP evidence update, but participate in. The meeting today at noon, I did leave the reports from both Zoom, Carnival, and Civil and Herman in regard to their respective departments. I can give you a quick rundown now. The Human Services Block Grant Plan is proceeding. The public hearing was May 15th at the Penrose Plaza. There were 26 individuals in attendance, a lot of discussion around the needs of the community. Our hearing, of course, is Monday. We should have all received a copy of the document. If you have, contact Sylvia Way. We should do that as part of our meeting Monday. Is essentially the plan here on the block frame. Okay, let's see here. We had some discussion regarding the building issues for Betty Hall, guys in our holy experience. So he says there's some progress being made there. Staff communications on that. She reported that up to us awareness month. So we a second here for the other report. And there was some development in IPD Bill. Actually, the proposed 18 budget represents putting increase that would be very beneficial. Of course, that's also subject to the budget that they will see where that all falls at. On the early interventions side, the budget bill was a one-time increase, which would help cover some of the unanticipated costs with some of the reclassifications that have brought the availability of early intervention testing mandate. That's escalated some of the costs. The state recognized that reclassification has had some consequences for counties, and they're making noise at this point toward trying to be supportive county budgets in that respect. That's all I have. I do want to extend one item of thanks also to several county staff members and officials. I think some of you are aware I'm actually taking a couple of night classes on operational performance, which has a lot of relevance to what we're doing in Cumberland County government. And my latest class is on pay for performance, and of course very relevant to our own merit-based compensation plan. But I got some very valuable input from several of our folks that helped extend my own understanding of the system and provided some, I think, very good information we can fold into our ongoing effort to refine our merit-based compensation. So I just wanted to give a shout out to our finance director, Dana Best, to Bob DeGrosa, our deputy controller, also Kirk Stone, planning director, and as well as to Holly Sherman in HR. I really appreciate the input that they gave me in this undertaking. We'll put it to good use. That's everything I have.
Gary, I'll be attending the MHIDD meeting at noon.
Oh, okay.
In case there's any other info.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, no problem.
So I have lunch for you, so you get lunch for free.
Wasn't aware of that.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'd like to report that an executive session was held on May 8, 2018 at 9 a.m. regarding personnel matters. I'd also like to request an executive session be held directly after this meeting concerning personnel issues. Under other business, if I may, Commissioners, I'd like to bring forward the MOU or Memorandum of Understanding regarding the county library system that was discussed at the finance meeting yesterday, and bring it up for consideration for approval or additional direction from the Commissioners on that development.
Gary, we did not take any action on this yesterday at the finance meeting.
Yeah.
Wanted to make sure you had everything for you to review before we take the next step on it.
I did review the memo. I was at a disadvantage, of course, not having the opportunity to question Carolyn regarding some of these. Frankly, I have some real issues with it as written. I think the component regarding opioids is very vague and then runs counter to our entire purpose of having specific goals established for additional funding. I think for that reason alone, I would have problems supporting the memorandum as written. I think also the futures group were somewhat overcomplicating that, and I can see us not necessarily relying just on the library system to provide the names, but perhaps we could advertise publicly for those names, and then working in conjunction conjunction with the library system board, we could vet those. These types of things really take, essentially a strategic planning exercise. You need to have the right people, and it's worth taking a little time to ensure that you're getting good candidates, recruiting from a broad pool, that you got the right skills there, and that you select carefully, because you're gonna have to, you want people putting their brain power into thinking broadly and making suggestions about where we can go with our library, the future concept, and to really look into what other libraries around the country are doing. So it's not an enormous time investment, but it does require some effort, and it requires the right type of perspective, and there's some people who are more inclined toward that than others. I'd like to see us maybe revisit what's being suggested or recommended in terms of getting that moving forward. It's been languishing for quite a while, so I can understand the anxious to get it moving. But I think if we refine that process a little, we'll actually save ourselves a lot of time and effort in the long run.
Gary, if I could, I think we lost you yesterday when we must have been thinking though the same, because I had suggested that the positions for the Futures Task Force, should be publicly advertised, and I think we had an understanding again after we lost contact with you. I think we had an understanding that in fact we were going to do that, so that it's opened up to, and then we try to see who we get in terms of volunteers and pick the best volunteers possible. And I think there was a general agreement to that, to do that. The other thing is that just on your comment, I had some questions relative to the program suggested here for the $10,000 on the opioid addiction issue. I know that we are, we have a pretty concerted effort, comprehensive effort at the county on that problem. And I would hate to see, a situation where we're being duplicative of effort, but I don't really have a strong feeling on this one way or the other, but perhaps because I think we're at a time situation here, we're heading into, the end of May, and we're halfway through, 2018 here. My recommendation would be, and I don't know whether it's possible, would be to approve the First Amendment, or the amendment, maybe amend the First Amendment, right? To remove the quality of life number I, and make the allocation $100,000, and then also maybe insert some language in here relative to advertising for the 9 members, at least 9 members, to serve on the Futures Task Group. So if that's in order, I'll make a motion to make those amendments to the amendment, and perhaps we can get that ready for our action on Monday.
I don't want to interrupt, but I would make that subject to the board of the library system executing the agreement with those changes.
Correct. Gary, I sent you an email late yesterday with the summary. Maybe it didn't get through, but we did agree to advertise for those FTG positions.
Okay, that sounds good. I did see your note on that.
Okay.
Jim, could I ask you to clarify what we're doing on the review?
Yeah, my suggestion would be to remove that, the quality of life section I there. Just remove that, change the total number to 100,000, and then relative to the makeup under number 2, relative to the makeup of the Futures Task Group, to include in there that the FTG will consist of at least 9 members that are selected from a group of volunteers is advertised or something along those lines. And like I said, that would be the two suggestions I would make, understanding that the Cumberland County Library System Board would have to approve. I would say that, we approve it and send this over to the library board, because again, we have a time problem, I think, in terms of getting this done.
Gary,
Is there a problem with us doing it first?
No, my point was to have you sign it first.
Yeah.
You sign it after they've signed it. You're approving the form of it for an execution, subject to them executing it as changed.
Gary, they have 9 goals listed. The one is this one that deals with the opioid addiction. That's the one we're going to request be removed.
That's letter I.
Letter I, yes.
Yeah, for 10 cents. So you're gonna remove that and reduce the entire total to the $100,000.
Yeah, the reason the extra 10 was there is because last year's goals, one of them never got off the ground. That was something to do with the prison.
Prison thing, yeah, I recall that, okay. Yeah, I'm fine with those amendments.
Okay.
So if we could maybe draft it in that way and then be in a position to act to approve, the altered amendment to the amendment.
It'll have to go through the library board first, so that's not going to happen by Monday.
Why does it have to go through the library board first?
They have to approve it.
My preference is to have them approve it. They're going to get the change document.
Yeah, both sides have
Once
to
they
agree.
sign it, based on your action on Monday, you can go ahead and sign it without approving it at a public meeting. You're giving them the form of a document changed. My preference in almost every contract is to have the other side sign it first.
Okay.
You know it's there. Otherwise, if you approve it without them signing it, it can float out there for who knows how long and what.
Okay, so essentially we can approve what it is that we would like to see.
Exactly.
And then, and that will be, we could do that on Monday.
Exactly.
All right.
Subject to their
And
execution.
so essentially we make the changes to this MOU and then send it over there. They can sign it first, whatever.
Exactly.
And then it comes back and we'll sign it.
Exactly.
But we're making the change to the MOU at Monday's meeting.
Absolutely.
They're not going to have time to submit it before Keith. That's where I'm confused.
But no, that's okay.
That's okay.
That's fine. You're going to approve the form of it. Approve for execution. Subject to their execution of the document.
So Monday's action will be contingent
Exactly.
until they do something.
Exactly. You have approved it, they get it, they approve it, it comes back and you
Well, I
sign
gotta
it.
look, I'm just from a practical point of view, I mean, I gotta look at this as like you want $100,000 or not, so.
I know, that's why we're going to sign it.
All right.
Okay. We're going to clear that.
Okay, thank you, commissioners, for the additional direction. And we'll work together as a team to get that redrafted for Monday.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good.
Is there any other business to bring forward to the Board of
Did you vote?
Commissioners?
So, I'm sorry, we're gonna vote on that Monday.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
All right, does not need to be action, okay, very good.
Correct.
Sorry.
Okay. Gary, do you have anything you want to bring up?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
The only other thing, I'll just mention this briefly, and that was, I know I put a query out to Bethany relative to these, couple of these close elections we had. One of them was decided by one vote for the state house and the Republican nomination. The question I had is essentially, so if somebody wants a recount, what are the procedures, what's the guidelines, what are the requirements? And I think what I read in the newspaper this morning is that apparently, at least if you could have 3 voters in each precinct that could petition the Board of Elections for a recount. So again, I'm just kind of looking for, at this point, just an understanding as to what would be required if any of these candidates who were very close elections would come to the Board of Elections looking for a recount. And what I'm still looking for a clearer understanding of the requirements. I understand if it's statewide, it has to be within 0.5% of the vote total or something before there's apparently no provisions like that relative to, I guess, state representative elections or state senator elections. So I just want to understand if we could get a further clarification from our solicitor on that in terms of what is necessitated. Because I mean, I think one of these statements that I read was that it would have to be ordered by a judge. But the article I read in today's, I guess, Penn Live, or it was sent, I'm not sure which paper, indicated that it could come directly to the Board of Elections. So just looking for clarification on that.
Understood.
I think that Bethany said, Keith, is that if it's the state rep has requested, and then the Department of State
has to
decides
approve it. That's correct.
whether or not it's legitimate. So
Right.
we really
I don't
have
know
to say.
what the paper said, but they're both state representative positions, and the Department of State need to approve that process.
Well, then again, I'm just trying to understand what the reality is, because there was something in, I think it was today's Senate, about 3 voters in each precinct in the district could petition the Cumberland County Board of Elections. And it was referencing a statement from the Department of State. So I don't know who's interpreting what. I would just like some clear understanding of it.
Understood.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioners. Any other business? All right. Seeing none, we will adjourn and reconvene in executive session in a few moments.
Okay.